Hi there. I'm so excited to welcome you to the Arthritis Life podcast, where we share arthritis life stories and tips for thriving with autoimmune arthritis. My name is Cheryl Crow, and I am passionate about helping people navigate real life with arthritis beyond joint pain. I've been living with rheumatoid arthritis for 20 years, and I'm also a mom, occupational therapist, video creator, support group leader, and I created the Rheum to Thrive self-management program. I am so excited to help you live a more empowered life with arthritis. We're going to cover everything from kitchen life hacks to navigating the healthcare system to coping with friends who just don't get it. Seriously, no topic is going to be off limits on this podcast. My interviewees and I share our honest stories of how chronic illness affects our lives. This includes discussions about mental health, sex, shame, pregnancy, body image, advocacy, self-acceptance, and so much more. You'll hear stories from all ends of the spectrum, from a person who's living in medicated remission from psoriatic arthritis to somebody living with severe mobility restrictions and severe pain from rheumatoid arthritis. You'll hear how people manage their conditions in different ways, like medications, mindfulness, movement, social support, work accommodations, and so much more. You'll also hear from rheumatology experts who just get it. We'll dive deep into the science behind chronic pain and what's the latest evidence for lifestyle changes that can help you thrive with arthritis, including exercise, sleep, nutrition, stress reduction, and more. This is your chance to sit down and chat with a friend who's been there. Ready to figure out how to manage your arthritis life? Let's get started. I'm so excited to have Alice Getchell back on the Arthritis Life podcast. After we recorded for episode 160, she had some additional things she wanted to say, which I was like, welcome to my world. That's how I feel after every episode that I do too, where I'm like, oh, I wish I said that. And we thought, okay, let's take some time and expand on the topic of social support today and what that's looked like for her. So welcome, Alice. Thanks for coming back.
Oh, thanks. This is great. I love it.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you do. I do too. So, can you just give the audience a brief introduction of where you live and what health conditions you have?
Okay. I live in Minneapolis and my health conditions, rheumatoid arthritis, Sjogren's, fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue syndrome, chronic kidney disease, and there's more. But the point being that I have multiple things, and it's kind of hard to explain that to people. And you don't want to explain it to people necessarily, but if they ask, and I guess it's which ones are the most important, I guess, at this point are rheumatoid arthritis and dealing with that. And the rest kind of just follow along and you deal with the side issues as you go. So
And I think, do you also have osteoarthritis?
I do.
Okay.
And that has never been clarified completely as to what parts of my body. I just know what parts I think that's in.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And I think, that's already leading into like the topic of like, it's hard enough when you're the one living in the body with multiple things going on to understand like what's causing what. Is it my fibro? Is it my RA? Is it my Sjogren's? But then to also explain it to friends and family, and they have a hard time also understanding sometimes like the overlapping conditions. It's just not so straightforward, right?
exactly.
Yeah. And before we get to the support systems, though, I wanted to also have you summarize a little bit what your journey has been like so far. I guess I already kind of gave it away that it's not been straightforward, but how would you summarize your journey with rheumatoid arthritis and Sjogren's, let's just say?
Yeah. It's been the classic words are up and down. And I think that's true with a lot of stuff in our lives. But when I was diagnosed, it was a surprise, so to speak. And I thought that, okay, they're going to find the magic bullet. And so the first thing I tried didn't work. The second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, I'm number 8 now, as far as RA drugs, methotrexate, and at the moment I'm on Xeljanz. And right today, I can say that I think it's working, and I'm feeling the best that I have felt for a very long time. However, I'm one of those people who says, okay, can I trust this? Is the other shoe going to drop? And so I'm not looking over my shoulder necessarily to see if it's creeping up on me, whatever it may be. But it's always in the back of my mind.
And I would say that's very rational to be worried about the other shoe dropping when you've literally had 7 medications in a row where the other shoe dropped, like, where they either never worked or they worked for a little bit and then stopped working. That's just called, like, learning. So I think as patients, we have to figure out how to draw a line between normal and rational fears and then too much quote unquote anxiety, right? To the point where you're not even able to enjoy having good disease control because the whole time you're worried about when it's going to end.
Exactly. You're
Ugh,
right.
I really understand that because I'm lucky that in 22 years, I'm on my 5th combination of methotrexate plus a biologic. And it's definitely hard not to worry about, is it going to end if you're starting to feel good?
Right. That's right.
You just want to kind of plan your life too. But yeah, so one of the things we wanted to delve a little deeper into today was social support, because that it can be really hard for people who live with multiple chronic conditions to feel like their friends, family, community members, whether that's work or faith communities, hobbies, like in my case, swing dancing community. It's hard for people sometimes to feel fully supported by their communities. So what kinds of support have been important for you and what has that looked like? Whatever you want to say about that.
Yeah, that's the first thing is, of course, my family has been totally supportive. I mean, hasn't been anything negative from anybody, only maybe frustration from my husband who wants to fix me, wants it to be fixed. But everybody is just so understanding and tries to give me space when I'm not dealing well with something on a particular day. I have a really good friend, who she has lupus and Sjogren's. So, and she's got other conditions too, of course. But she and I have had just such a great connection for quite a long time. We've known each other for many years, but only until I was diagnosed did we start to get into those deeper things to talk about with each other. And we share constantly, we support each other, listen, just sit quietly together if whatever either one of us needs. And it's reciprocal. I mean, it's balanced. It's really nice. So let's see. Who else have I had support from? Most of my friends, most of the people I played music with. I've had one friend who was just totally, when I gave her the information that I'd been diagnosed, just goes, "Oh, yeah, that's that knuckle thing," and then changed the subject. And I didn't feel very supported then, and I still don't. But I have tremendous support from my church community. I sing in the choir, and that's another little family within a family, so to speak. Most everyone in there is supportive. Some of them don't quite understand, or some of them maybe don't really get it, but it doesn't matter because the group feeling is positive. Who else? I can't think of.
Yeah. No, I think those are the 3 I remember after the episode, you were like, "I think I wanted to make sure to highlight how lucky you feel and how with your friend, family, and community support." And I thought that was so sweet, first of all, that you wanted to make sure to shout them out. And I think those who've listened to the podcast maybe have heard, unfortunately, there are lots of people who don't have that degree of support. And you're in the graduates group, the alumni group for the Room to Thrivers, and we hear the whole spectrum in that group. We hear people who have wonderful support like you, and I consider myself to have a lot of great support. And then we hear people who've had really tough times. There's people who aren't in touch with their parents anymore, or siblings, people whose parents said they think you're faking it, or they don't believe your diagnosis, or you shouldn't take medication, and they criticize your choices. So I think the fact that you wanted to express gratitude for your communities is huge. And I would say you're part of the Room to Thrive community too, of course, in the
Well, yeah,
graduates group. Yeah.
sorry, I didn't mention that
No,
right.
I thought of it too. But you did mention that the other podcast episode too. But yeah, the virtual support group. Yeah.
It's, in fact, that's right up there with my family as far as support. I hate having to miss a meeting if I do. And I mean, I look forward to it, can't wait for it. And I'm glad we have once a week, every
Yeah.
week we have. So I wanted to say quickly, I have another friend who
Yeah.
made a little booklet, which I'm blurred
Oh,
everything
cute.
and you can't see it.
If you put it right in front of your chest or like your face, it'll show
There we
better.
go.
I figured that out.
Well,
Yeah.
it's hard to see, but it's on a little ring here, and they're little quotes of things that she collected. I'll just read the first one that's on top. Accepting our feelings means being with them without being lost in them.
Whoa. I need to remind myself of that. I need to copy that.
Yeah. And she has her own issues, but she's been just another friend that's very supportive. And I just wanted to acknowledge that.
Oh my God.
So, yeah.
That's beautiful. And you anticipated my next question, which is what are some of the ways people have supported you that have been helpful, or people have attempted to support you that have been helpful, and then ones that have been not helpful? Any other specifics you
Well,
can think of?
if a friend calls me or texts me or emails and maybe just checks in, they don't even really have to say, how are you? Or how are you doing? Or be that expressing that over concern.
Yeah.
Just connecting. And that's so helpful. Boy, that's a kind of a tough question.
I think the earlier example you gave of someone being not helpful was when they kind of said, oh, they minimized it, right? They say, oh, that's just that knuckle thing.
Yeah.
Or, oh, everyone has arthritis at our age or something.
Yeah, actually, yeah, I have had some people say that, more than one, in fact. So you kind of start to realize who's going to get it and who isn't,
Yeah.
and monitor how do you respond to those people. And maybe not listen too much to what they have to say. Just listen
Yeah.
to people that are supportive.
Yeah, and in the Room to Thrive, like the coursework, the self-paced course, and in the ongoing groups, we now have themes of the week for the support group. And in the Thrive framework, I'm just going to really quickly deviate to say that relationships, friendships, families, spouse, parent-child relationship, that falls under the R of the Thrive framework, which is relationships. And the meeting when we talk about misunderstandings and unsolicited advice and how to cope with those, that is always a meeting where, having done this for 5 years, that's the meeting probably overall where I get the most participation. Like the most people are raising their digital hand and writing in the chat, and they're talking about their experiences, the good, the bad, and the ugly of the misunderstanding. Again, the common misunderstanding is that it's just arthritis, minimizing it, and knowing what to say. People often say, what do I say back when someone says something that's like out of left field? You should just drink. I don't know if you get the thing that a lot of people bring up is unsolicited advice. You should just try yoga. You should just drink tart cherry juice. You should just do turmeric. You shouldn't take the medications. You should do this. Have you had that ever?
Yeah, a little of that. Not bad, but enough
Yeah.
that it was annoying.
Like for me, what I say to people in that circumstance, it's hard to say this is my script, quote unquote, because it depends A, on the nature of my relationship with the person, and B, like you said, you're scanning them. Like I'm scanning for what is their intent, because I do think sometimes unsolicited advice comes from a really good place. Like I will say my husband and I are both fixers. And so I've obviously chronic illness has taught me when that I can be a fixer and when I can't. I need to accept the things I can't fix. But if I am aware of if I see a friend in pain and I'm aware of something that might help them, it's just natural in my head to want to make them aware of something that might help them, right? But the complication is when it can come across as patronizing, right, or criticizing their choices. And one person said all unsolicited advice is a form of criticism, which I don't personally agree with, but I can see why it feels that way.
Yeah, I do recognize when someone's trying to be helpful or giving you in a way that they think they're giving support, and that comes from a good place, I think, heartfelt or whatever. But the others, one on the flip side of people who start to tell me about, oh, my sister had that and she just did fine on her meds, but you should try this, like you said. Or they start sharing their own, I have this, I have that. And then they start talking enough that you realize there's not going to be much more in this conversation that's going to be helpful. And
Mm-hmm.
so you figure out how to move out of that conversation, ask them something else about what book have you read lately or movies or something different to just change the subject. Yeah.
I mean, that's such a underrated tip to subtly change the subject because I think I'm the kind of person when someone asks me a question, I feel like a compulsion to answer it, right? Or if they give me misinformation, I feel a compulsion to correct them. And we've talked about this in the graduates group and in other groups too, where then you get in this endless circle. Like I've gone around in circles with people, the people, especially in my case, that are like, you shouldn't take Western medicine, blah, blah, blah. And I want to just inform them and tell them about all the scientific research. And then I realize it's if people's minds are open to change, yeah, it can be helpful if they truly are open to learning new information. But if they're not, if they're like completely dead set on their belief that you should be able to control RA without medication, nothing I say is going to change. So being able to subtly say, right now, I'd rather focus on other things. What are your summer plans? Are you guys going on any trips? Or changing the subject and putting the ball back on their court so that they're kind of forced to talk about something else.
Yeah. And make it an easy segue, not just suddenly burst out.
Or be like, hey, I have a question for you. Actually, this reminds me, I had a question for you. And then say the question. And yeah, I mean, I'm not very subtle as a person, so I'm not very probably the one to give advice on subtly changing the subject. But one other thing sometimes people have brought up in the groups, some group wisdom I'll share is to say something like a really neutral statement. Like, oh, okay, I'll keep that in mind. Or interesting. Yeah, I guess we all have different beliefs. Then it went, oh, someone's calling me. I gotta go.
Yeah, those are good. That's good.
Yeah. And I don't know whether, again, if you don't have any specific advice, that's totally fine. But do you have any advice for somebody listening who might feel like they don't have a good support system or that their support system just really doesn't get it? Do you have any tips for them?
Yeah, that's especially hard for people whose family, some people who say there's no one in my family, or maybe there's one person, but everybody else is just puts me down or ignores me or dismissing. I think what I would tell somebody is if you have what you feel is no support or not enough support, find a support group online with the person named Cheryl Crow.
Oh,
This is
I did not pay her to say that.
no, right. No, it's just, but you and the groups have been like a lifeline because you all have information, you, but all the people in the groups, they each have something to offer. And if you are a person who can be open to that and not just kind of close off your mind and ignore everything you hear, just that's a great place. I don't think that I thought of that initially when I was diagnosed, but somehow gradually found my way. And again, it's been the best.
But
Thank you.
thank you. It really is. I mean, a group is only as strong as the people in the group. So I feel really lucky that the kind of support, the kind of, community we've built has been really astounding, to be honest. It is right now is the 5-year anniversary of when I started the first group in what was in May of 2020. And so I've been doing a lot of reflecting back and thinking all my fears, all my hopes. It has been really even better than my hopes. So I think, yeah, there is no substitute for people who've been through what you're going through or something similar. It's not just about the Room to Thrive group. There may be a different one that's better for your schedule or better for your flow. The Arthritis Foundation has monthly support groups that are in different geographical areas. And there's other, like Spondylitis Association of America has some support. There's a lot of different places you can get support too. So some people like more of an in-person group. So if you are looking for recommendations, feel free to contact me as well. And on my website, there's like a contact me form if you are looking for something. Because I do try to be really objective to be like, I'm not saying that my group is the only one. I do think it's special. And of course, I tailor-made it how I wanted it to be in terms of the educational framework, the educational components, but the spirit of the group. I say in a non-religious sense, a subjective quality of what it just feels like to be in that Zoom room together and support each other through so many ups and downs. So it's been wonderful. And again, I don't know firsthand what it's like to not have family support. I've been extremely lucky, but also thinking about the concept of chosen family, the people that you can find in either in-person community or online can be huge.
Absolutely.
And then just last question for this episode today, because again, this is a follow-up to episode 160. So if you want to hear all of Alice's answers to the rapid fire questions at the end and everything else, you can listen to that one. But I actually really like this idea of really deep diving on a follow-up episode. Do you have any advice for somebody who is like a spouse or a loved one or a friend of somebody living with rheumatoid arthritis and Sjogren's who's, I want to support my friend, I don't know where to start? What do you recommend that they do? Or
I don't know if this is the only answer. Certainly not. There's lots,
yeah,
but ask the person.
that's what I was going to say too. Yeah.
What's helpful to you? What is it that I can do or say that would be helpful? And let them talk. Let them just tell you what, maybe how they're feeling, what they're going through, and listen closely. And maybe something will come to surface in that conversation, or you'll just get a better overview of things, and just be sure to listen. That's the thing.
Not only ask, but then actually listen when they answer, and know that it's okay if your friend who has the condition doesn't know what they need at the moment. Just say, it's okay if you don't know what you need, but I want to let you know that I am here. I want to be here for you in the way that is best for you. Another thing I would say is asking the person who has the condition, I'm here for you if you want to vent and I'll just be listening, or I'm here if you want solutions. It helps me to know if you're looking for one versus the other, because we don't want to. Sometimes I'm looking for solutions. Like I said, my husband's a fixer and he's good at finding solutions to solvable problems. So sometimes I want that. But other times I'm like, I know there's no solution, like to uncertainty. Will this medication work or not? We don't know. That's uncertainty. So I just want to vent and can you sit with me in this murky area rather than trying to make it solved?
Yeah, because you can't solve it. I mean, it's just not one of those things that has a single solution. And I think if you let the person with the condition, let them just be. If they're in a bad spot, and if they're able to verbalize that they're in a bad spot, and don't talk to me, just let me have some space right now.
Yeah.
Distract me. Talk to me about something else. The person with it isn't necessarily going to think of, oh, let's go have coffee. It just has to be something you have to have a conversation with the person.
Yeah. As you were saying that, I remembered sometimes people will say, I don't want to have to tell my husband how to support me. He should just know. Personally, I'm going to give you tough love on that. No, nobody's a mind reader. No matter how well you know someone, you don't know what they want in the moment unless you ask them. So it's okay. It's valid to wish that people could read your mind, but it's not valid to expect them to read your mind or to be mad at them for not reading your mind. I would say get over that and understand that you are not going to get what you want by expecting someone to read your mind. If you told them what you want and they're not giving it to you, it's a different issue.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was just going to say, and it works both ways. I mean, it isn't just you. How would I say that?
Yeah.
Reading minds. I think a lot of people that do that, it's a two-way street. In other words, everybody does try to do that, I think, sometimes, but just realizing that nobody is going to know what's going on up here, and be patient if possible.
Yeah.
And patience is hard too.
Yeah. I actually don't think I've ever asked you this. How long have you been married?
55 years.
Oh my gosh. Amazing.
It's amazing to me too, because he and I have conversations about that. God, do you believe these numbers? They keep getting bigger, and how did that happen? And then I don't know. Sometimes we've had people say, "How did you stay married that long?" And I can't answer that. It's just one day at a time, and you keep dealing with what comes up next. And I've often told him, I sometimes feel like the two of us have had several marriages. Been all these scenarios in our lives where when we got married, he was in the service and he got out of the service. And then we had a period of years where we were both working and that's all fine. And then finally we had a child. And so then that's the next phase. So in a way, I kind of consider each of those separate marriages or something.
Yeah. I mean, I've been married now for 13 years, and I feel like there was definitely chapter 1 of pre-kids and chapter 2. Sorry, we have 1 kid, but one, you're already outnumbered if you have an only child. Yeah. And then chapter 2 was kind of the pandemic, kind of, and Charlie being of school age. So kind of birth to 5. There's pre-kids, then there's birth to 5, which is kind of survival mode. And then there's when your kid's more independent. And for me, so there's already been 3 chapters, 3 different, in a way, like marriage stages. Again, I asked you the question, but just to share back my experiences, it's almost been like a rediscovering of who the person is now, because they change too. And if you're lucky, you change in a similar direction. And some of that maybe is a little bit of luck and a little bit of good choosing in the first place.
Yeah, that's true.
My dad said to me in my 20s, I had a couple of different, I was like a serial monogamous, like somebody who's really interested in being with one person and really committing, but didn't kind of find that long-term person who was perfect for me until my later 20s. And so in my early to mid 20s, my dad kind of at one point had to tell me, he's like, life is just going to get harder from here on out. So just keep that in mind. If it's already hard to be with somebody, and this is not saying anything about my ex, they're all amazing. I have like literally nothing terrible to say about anyone, but sometimes people are just different. They want different things, and they're just not as compatible. And if you're already struggling to be compatible when you have no kids and you're just working and swing dancing and doing your like fun little 20-something life, you're starting at a point that's going to be harder to, you know what I'm saying? When you add more complications in life, like children or parents' health issues or whatever, my own health issues. So that speaks to the idea of choosing someone in the first place who, even though you're both gonna grow and change over time, choosing somebody who you feel like you're already similar enough to, that you're gonna grow together. That's my case, but I don't know do you think you did that 55 years ago, or maybe?
This is sort of, it happened not in the way I would have expected, because we met, and within just a few weeks, maybe even only 2, we both knew.
That's how my parents were. They've been married over 50 years too. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was amazing to me. I thought, how is this possible? And it's like, you just know. And okay, we met 2 weeks, we kind of knew, and 6 months later, we got married. And I think we both feel that, it's the soulmate thing. There's something deep that it's just a feeling you can't explain.
That's really sweet. Now I feel like everyone's going to want to see a picture of your wedding pictures, but no, you don't have to share those if you don't want. No. Yeah. But that's really sweet. And I just really appreciate you taking the time to delve more into this. In a way, it's painting a picture just to someone listening of what a positive support system might look like. And I think like you said, with a marriage, they're all different. I disagree with Tolstoy. I think all happy marriages are different. And all unhappy marriages are different. Everyone's different, but it's beautiful to see that you have that support, not just from your spouse, but from your greater community as well. So again, if anyone wants to listen to the more of your like story of navigating RA and Sjogren's and stuff like that, that's episode 160. But for now, I'll say one last thing, and then I think we'll wrap it up. Earlier, you did mention going through 8 different medicines in a relatively short amount of time. That I want people listening to understand that there is like a percentage of people with rheumatoid arthritis. It depends on the study you look at, but it's like between 5 and 20%. And I'll put citations in the show notes. But up to 20% of people with rheumatoid arthritis have what's called difficult to treat RA. And it means that their RA doesn't go into remission on the first 1 or 2 meds that they try. The majority if you're listening, I just want you to know that statistics are still in your favor if you're newly diagnosed, that you're most likely going to be in the 80% area. But know that there is a possibility that you might be in that 25 to 20%. But I just don't want people to be scared unnecessarily, like to understand the statistics, to say, okay, most likely I'll be in that 80%. So just cross gentle crossing of fingers for you if you're newly
Right.
diagnosed. Yeah.
I was just going to say too that I'm seronegative for rheumatoid arthritis. So that's why I didn't get diagnosed soon enough until damage was done. And the doctors who tested me said, "Oh, you don't have it. The markers aren't there." It was just diagnosed in a different way. X-ray,
Yeah.
MRI. So
Yeah, it's definitely not just like RA. Sjogren's is and RA are both not just one blood test. There's multiple things they take into account. So thank you again for coming on and sharing about this. And maybe we'll do another follow-up later, but for now we'll say bye-bye for now. Thanks so
okay.
much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for listening. This podcast is supported by Rheum to Thrive, an educational program I created to help empower you to live life to the fullest with rheumatic disease. In the program, you're going to learn evidence-based tools for managing all the ways rheumatic disease affects your life. And my goal is to help you go from overwhelmed to confident, supported, and connected in a matter of weeks. You can go through the pre-recorded modules on your own in the self-paced course, or you can take the course along with a robust support group of new arthritis friends to support you and cheerlead you along the way. Learn more in the link in my show notes, or you can always go to www.myarthritislife.net. And if you like this podcast, I'd be so honored if you took the time to rate and review it. I also encourage you to share it with anyone you know who might benefit from it. I also want to remind you that you can find full transcripts, videos, and detailed show notes with hyperlinks for each episode on the Arthritis Life website, plus full episode videos on the Arthritis Life YouTube channel. If you have any ideas for content for future episodes, or you want to share your story on the podcast, please send me, Cheryl, an email at info@myarthritislife.net. I can't wait to hear from you, and thanks so much again for your time.